5?
Every time. It's like it's a surprise.
Well, yes, it is a surprise.
Every time. You say it as if it's never happened before.
Well, it's never happened today.
You're right.
It hasn't happened
You know what?
today.
You're right. It hasn't happened today.
But other things have gotten in the way of this happening, though.
Yes. Well, some of us are drama queens, and some of us decide to have surgery in the middle of a pandemic.
Yes. So this black.
Wait. Let everybody join you.
Okay.
Let everyone join you. Hi.
Join me.
Yes.
Join me.
Join him. Join him. Join him. Hi, everybody. It is 7 gabillion degrees outside. How are you? It's bad when people in Oregon and Washington State are buying air conditioning for the first time ever. Like ever. It is real toasty. And I am real warm. But we are here and happy to be with you.
Yes, very happy to be with you. Last Sunday, we couldn't quite.
So the exciting part about today is this is the first time we've sort of put a shirt on my dad. Very nearly put a shirt on him. We were able to get him his surgery. That happened. I did post about it a little bit. Thank you, dogs. He had his surgery. It went well. Thank the Lord it went well.
I had shoulder replacement surgery.
Yes, we call him the Bionic Leonard now because that's what he is. He has a fake shoulder, no longer a human shoulder, which is terribly exciting. Logan, Mabel, the best part is they're fighting over a little princess stuffed animal. So that kind of adds to the hilarity of it. Hey, guys, it is a shame. It's because we don't give them toys or love or food. So clearly they're struggling because they just have so little in life.
Anyway, we were in no shape to share a screen with you last Sunday.
Yes.
And I'm very happy we are in shape
Absolutely.
to do it today. If you don't follow our daily drama, 2 weeks ago tomorrow,
yep,
I flew to Atlanta in order to tape some segments for Turner Classic Movies.
Is it 2? It's more than 2 weeks.
More than 2 weeks?
Yeah, because it's been a week since you had surgery.
Mm-hmm.
It's been more than a week since you had surgery. Let's not do timelines. Whatever it was, Leonard went boom. Leonard had a dislocated shoulder. Leonard dislocated it again. We got him into surgery.
Once is an accident.
Yeah. Twice is impressive.
Twice, you gotta take a little credit.
I think I was very impressed.
How to re-dislocate
that your shoulder managed to dislocate all on its own.
Yeah.
The second time around. It just.
Your voices are not in sync with your faces, like watching a badly dubbed Godzilla movie. Well,
I like those.
How do you know that's not on purpose?
Yeah. You're
assuming that's not what we intended. There are comedians who can do that.
Oh, I know. And it's neither of them is us. None of the people who can do it are us.
Right.
But yeah, so my dad came home. He's been home for a little over a week. He's been recovering and doing really well.
And in a sling, which we have camouflaged.
Yes. He's in a big old sling. But yeah, we're, as I say, incredibly grateful that it's gone as smoothly as it has.
Yes.
And
you would think that having had the surgery on my left shoulder and being right-handed on my dominant side, that I'd be all set. I can use this hand.
Mm-mm.
There's so many things you can't do with a single hand.
Mm-mm.
So many things. Mm-mm. Opening a flip-top can.
Nope.
Somebody very dexterous could do that.
Maybe. I think my favorite part is that we actually have to help him eat ice cream out of a carton, which is you have to hold it for him so he can.
You have to hold the carton steady.
Yep. So
it's not the scooping I can do.
These are the things we've learned since our Bionic Leonard has come home.
Yep.
I posted the picture because it was just so insane of what is now in his arm. In the event that you did not see it, I will turn this around. This is Leonard's arm. I know you can't really make it out in certain, but if you go onto his social media places, you have an easier time seeing. But that Leonard is now bionic, which is terribly exciting. We were also calling him Leonard the Winter Soldier. Yeah, lots of jokes to be had. The one serious thing I will mention, though, because as I say, my dad just had surgery, and we talked about this a little bit with what happened to him in Atlanta. If you are going into a hospital, whether it's emergency, whether it's you're going to be admitted, whatever it is, whether it's you or your loved one, you must have an advocate. You must have someone there who can take care of you when you can't take care of you.
Yeah. And you may not be aware that you can't take care of yourself.
Yes. But I know it can be hard sometimes asking for help. I know it can be, some people are not comfortable. You need to have someone there who can keep an eye out. Hospitals mean well, nurses and doctors mean well, but things happen. And, a big one actually that we have now finding out, my dad has Parkinson's and he has to take medication very regularly. If he does not get his medication, he stops being able to function. And I mean, stops being able to function.
It's no secret that Parkinson's is a lack of dopamine in your system.
Mm-hmm.
So I take synthetic dopamine under various names
every
4 hours. And when my neurologist first explained all this to me, he said, and we've never forgotten how he described it, he says, it's like the gas tank is empty at the end of that 4 hours. There's no half-life.
Yeah. Most medications have what they call a half-life.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that when you take it, it still has an effect even after the allotted time that it should last. Dopamine is not like that. And so when he does not have it in his system, my description of it is it's like taking batteries out of a toy. And you'll sort of watch my dad slowly but surely just sort of
droop,
turn off and just kind of, And at the hospital, again, unfortunately, they have a lot of patients. They have a lot going on. They kept missing his medications.
And the problem is when you bring medications into the hospital,
that's a whole other that's a whole other thing. But I bring it up just because, as I say, no doctor, no nurse sets out to screw up, but it happens. And it is so, so, so important, as I say, that someone is there looking out for you and being your advocate and being the person who can, say, hey, the reason that he looks like a blob is because you've missed his medication. How do you expect him to recover without that? Yeah, Becca's saying it's scary. It was real scary. The scarier part, though, was me and Alice going into the hospital and having words with them that if he missed his medication again, we were going to fight somebody. And we very nearly did. Anyway, as I say, just be aware. If you're lucky enough to not have to deal with hospitals very often, mazel tov, let's keep it that way.
Yep.
But if you are somebody who finds yourself in that position, reach out, ask someone to just be there for you, to make sure that, in the moments when you need that assistance, you have it. And that is my tiny soapbox that I will now get off of. But yeah, again, we're home and he's doing really, really well. And you'll start physical therapy soon. That was the main response everybody had, was people who've had the surgery just kept saying, make sure he does surgery. And my reply to each and every one of you was, he has 2 neurotic Jewish women in his house. You think he's not going to do his physical therapy? Right?
Yeah. So anyway. one night in the hospital, I did not have a television set at my disposal.
Yeah, the nerve.
And all I had was my iPhone. So I said, all right, what can I watch to pass the time? And, I don't know how you feel when you're in the hospital. I was not groggy in this particular case. I was awake. I just wanted something diverting. Mm-hmm. So I thought to myself, all right, let me look up a list of public domain movies, because I know those are all over the internet. And sure enough, I found one that I hadn't ever seen. Pot of Gold, made in 1941, starring James Stewart, and Paulette Goddard, and Horace Heidt and his Musical Nights.
Horace Heidt and his Musical Nights.
Yes, and Charles Wenninger and other character people. So understand that this was made right after Jimmy Stewart made Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and the Philadelphia Story. It was produced by one of Franklin D. Roosevelt's sons, who had a short-lived career as a producer. And it was a tie-in with a popular weekly radio show starring band leader Horace Heidt. I'm going to say it's the worst movie Jimmy Stewart ever made.
And he's not here to argue.
No, he thought it was too.
Well, that's what I'm.
And some of the comments, some of the user comments on IMDb, I thought were really kind. I mean, they're fans of Stewart's, of course, I am too, but I thought they were really kind.
Yeah.
He does play the harmonica and sing in it. There is that. It filled the time.
Yeah.
And toward the very end, there's one little bonus. It's depicting the radio show, a giveaway show on the air, and a guy sitting in the front row of the orchestra, dressed in tux, comes forward and says one line into the microphone. It's Art Carney. It's Art Carney, a full decade before he started turning up on television and becoming one of the great comic actors of the 20th century.
See, so watching that god-awful movie in the hospital where there was no television, it was all for a purpose.
That's right.
To say you saw that terrible movie, but Art Carney came through. It's so where he was recovering initially was not the main part of the hospital. So the first thing I thought when I got in there was he doesn't have a TV, which again can sound ridiculous, but when you are laying there with nothing to do. Hi, did you bring a toy to share? Do you have show and tell? This is Logan and his toy. Yeah, your little dinosaur? Or I don't know what. I actually can't identify what this is supposed to be. Oh, but it's very tasty. Yes, it is. That was my first thought was he doesn't have a TV. What are we going to do? And so we made sure he did have headphones and that he had his phone with him and we were charging it and all that. So
Hello, Logan. You just came to say hello? Yes, that's exactly right. He just came to say hello.
He's making himself known. Careful of Daddy's arm, Logan. He goes, I can step on whatever I want. So my mom and I, the first thing we came back the next morning, we said, how you doing? How'd you pass the time? Did you sleep? He goes, well, I watched this movie on YouTube. I'm like, all right, well, whatever works. And then I think we mentioned that you have realized that you tend to read quite heavy books, physically heavy.
Oh yeah.
Because you can only use one hand. So so from now on, he's only reading physically light books. That's the bottom line. It's all you can do.
Not going to happen. But anyway, it's a nice thought.
You have been reading a book that has, I think I've described this. So again, my mom and I are both very dyslexic. My mom loves books on tape. That's her thing, and that's her way of reading. I can sometimes get through, but it just takes me forever to read, and I really struggle. But I live with, my dad's laughing at Logan bearing a toy. I live with my very own personal Cliff Notes. So when
Can he bury a toy
in a sofa,
fabric-covered couch?
I don't know, but he's trying.
Yeah.
My dad, whatever he's reading, we hear about the entire time he's reading it. As soon as you sit down with him, he'll start telling you his favorite parts. So genuinely, it is like living with your own Cliff Notes. So you're reading this book right now.
I finished it.
Okay.
It's called No Ordinary Time. Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt, and I'm getting the subtitle wrong. It's about World War II and World War II on the home front, and with a biographical emphasis on FDR and his wife Eleanor. And it's a Pulitzer Prize winner, written by Doris Kearns Goodwin, who was just a brilliant historian and a great storyteller. She knows how to keep the through line going, and tell things Simply and Clearly. Wow, what a book! But it's this thick.
It's huge.
It is.
It's huge.
It's thicker than my movie guide, I think.
Yeah. Well, someone just said you should try lifting your old movie guide. Yeah, right. We'll dislocate the other shoulder.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what it was like when they would deliver the boxes. So, your publisher will send you some books so you have them as well. And when the movie guides would come in, first of all, you'd hear the mailman fetching up the walkway. And then he'd put them down and we'd have to kick the box in the door because none of us could lift it. Nobody could pick up the books. Write lighter books.
Okay.
But yeah, no, you really enjoyed that book. You shared a lot of it with us. And then, as he mentioned, what he read while he was traveling to Atlanta when all this was going on was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Right, Quentin Tarantino's novelization of his own movie.
Yeah.
Not unique. My pal Max Allan Collins,
yes,
who wrote Road to Perdition as a graphic novel, and then it was made into an excellent movie.
Mm-hmm.
By Sam Mendes, with Tom Hanks and Paul Newman, great cast. Al, who has done dozens of novelizations,
yeah,
and including some very, very successful and popular ones, had to sort of compete for the privilege of novelizing his own film.
Yep.
But he did. Finally, he got to do that.
Yeah, he was able to, and obviously it's a great film and a great book. So Jack is asking, have you ever given a negative review of a movie that you regret? I don't think you regret. I think that sometimes people always ask, do you ever change your reviews?
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is that because you're a human who evolves, things can change.
Every time I see a movie, I'm a different person than I was when I wrote that review. And the movie's a different movie in its own way. It exists in a different world.
Mm-hmm.
So I might put greater emphasis on something if I were rewriting the review, or choose to focus on some other aspect of the movie.
Yeah.
So sometimes I end up disagreeing with myself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you first wrote the book, you were 18.
Yeah.
17. So, excuse me. It was published. It came out into the world at 18. Forgive me. But it's, then you got married.
Mm-hmm.
Then you started working at Entertainment Tonight.
Yep.
Then you moved to Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had a kid.
How'd that work out?
Apparently not well.
Okay.
But it's like all of these things go on. So of course things change. How you feel watching a movie when you're not a parent versus watching it when you are. Even something as silly as it may sound, but we have 2 dogs. My dad did not grow up with dogs.
No.
His parents, not huge animal people. My mother could not live without it. Now, my dad's a dog person.
Yep.
He can't imagine us not having dogs.
Yeah. And so I look at dogs on screen differently.
Everything.
It's one of the films, I think I plugged this already. One of the films I caught up with during the pandemic on TCM is a 1946 MGM movie called The Green Years, starring Dean Stockwell and Charles Coburn, big cast. Adapted from a novel by A.J. Cronin, who also wrote an old favorite of mine, The Citadel, which came out from MGM in 1938. The review in our classic guide is a decent review, but if I was writing it today, I'd be much more enthusiastic. So, why it didn't strike me or one of my colleagues the first time around? Don't know. But
it happens. Again, some movies get better with age. Some movies get much, much worse. And Becca's saying she watched The Shining for the first time this week and was unfortunately disappointed by the plot. Well, Bex, that's the thing is again, we talk about this a lot because people often ask us about, I'll say in quotes, classics, the movies that you're supposed to love / be impressed by. The movies that people are actually nervous to admit they may not like. And we say, well, first of all, you can't walk into a movie being told it's the greatest movie in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
That's a setup for failure for all parties, you know? I haven't seen The Shining in ages. I don't know. Did you like it? Are you a fan? I don't even know.
Not a huge fan.
Yeah.
Not a huge fan.
Yeah.
Had a great trailer.
Yeah.
Had an incredible
does.
trailer.
It does have, yes.
That I've never forgotten. Now, yesterday we watched 2 brand new movies
yeah.
at home.
What's the second one? You watched the Val Kilmer.
That's right.
Yeah.
First, we watched The Suicide
Squad.
Not to be confused with
Suicide Squad.
So they're made by the same filmmaker.
Yes.
No.
No, it's James Gunn did this one. That's
That's
the whole
right,
point.
yeah.
Is that David Ayers did the other one? David Ayers did the other one. And if you saw the first Suicide Squad, I don't know how you felt about it. Thought it was pretty terrible. I wanted to like it. I didn't mind aspects of it, but didn't like it all that much.
Justin Chang in the LA Times said that walking into this movie, he was questioning why he was even there.
Yeah.
Because seeing anything called Suicide Squad was no longer on his to-do list. But he came out, a fan of this one.
Here's the thing. So my husband is a comic book nerd, and he has really taught us a lot in terms of when is something followed faithfully. What is a character supposed to be like? How were they written originally? Stuff like that. And it's very useful because, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the DC universe, all that kind of stuff. It's really nice to have someone who knows those things. We also say that he's our sort of guinea pig, because if we all see a movie, if we see one of these movies together and he likes it, we know that the target audience will like it.
Now, I'll go one step further. I got your mother to watch several episodes of Loki.
I know, miracle.
With me
Miracle.
last week.
Yeah.
And I hadn't caught up with the show yet. I was curious, kept reading good things about it. And we both liked it.
Which I told you would.
Mm-hmm.
Again, guinea pigs. My husband and I watch stuff, and then my parents will say, "Should we?" And depending on what it is, sometimes I'll go, "No." Other times I'll say, "You know what? You might give it a try."
And Alice, who has not seen and knows nothing about the Avengers or the backstory of any of the characters, was immediately attracted to Tom Hiddleston.
Well, he's a great Loki.
Yeah,
he's great. He's a great actor. He's a great Loki.
Yep.
When we talked about it at the time, I told you that Loki was sort of the most. I thought it was fun enough that my mom might like it.
Yep, and she did.
But with Suicide Squad, the new one, it's written and directed by James Gunn. Now, here's the thing. Our issue, so this is where my husband comes in. My husband always says that the reason why the DC movies are not funny or as much fun, he says, is because DC is meant to be written as darker. It's supposed to be darker. So that's sort of his explanation. So one of my dad's, every time you do that, you shake the whole thing. These poor people. One of the first complaints you always have with the DC movies, you're like, they're no fun.
Yeah.
They're depressing. They're dark. And that's not enjoyable for you or for me.
As opposed to, as a role model for this kind of thing, as opposed to the great screenplay that Joss Whedon wrote for the first Avengers movie, which not only is clever and well balanced in terms of giving equal space to all of those leading characters, but it's funny.
Yeah, and in general, we know this. The Marvel movies have comedy in them. The people that they cast have great comedic timing. Yeah. So the thing that I felt with the Suicide Squad, the new one, it was funny. It was really well written and funny and fun. And yes, it was darker than a Marvel movie because it's not Marvel. There's a lot more
and it's
blood.
Rated R.
Yeah, there's a lot more blood and guts.
Which is what he set out to do, to make an R rating.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's the thing. It falls into the DC world.
Yeah.
But it brought what I feel that the DC movies tend to miss, which is fun, you know? And so as we watched it, I thought, I think my parents would actually like this movie. And then I found out they were watching it too. My dad said, your mother and I decided to watch The Suicide Squad this morning. I said, okay. And they both liked it.
Yep.
I
did. And if people are, well, if you're not anywhere interested in this kind of thing, this kind of comic book style movie, stay away. But because it inhabits that world.
Yeah.
Violence in this movie is not meant to be, is not meant to be graphically gory. It's cartoonish violence.
Yeah.
I mean, it still hurts.
Yeah.
But it's so broad, so over
someone
the
getting
top.
their head sliced off is, it's someone getting their head sliced off.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not nearly as, they say, as sort of depressing. There's a lot that was funny in it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of great actors in it. So we had a good time watching that. And then you guys.
We watched Val.
Yep.
The new documentary that digs into Val Kilmer's vast archive of home movies, home video, including personal stuff, family things, audition tapes, behind the scenes footage, and is an amalgam of all that. And I found it intermittently interesting. The stuff that I was most eager to see, I'm glad is there. I mean, the behind the scenes footage on the island of Dr. Moreau, the notoriously troubled production with Marlon Brando.
Yeah.
And that where they fired the original director and brought in John Frankenheimer. And that didn't go well either. And so now you have evidence. So it's, it's good, but you have to really be interested in Val Kilmer.
Yeah, well, yeah, probably that. Yeah. Probably a bit of that. Why do you think Duck Soup failed with audiences when it was released?
That's a good question. And sometimes reading reviews from the period, you can't believe that they saw the same movie. Reading reviews of Buster Keaton's The General, arguably his masterpiece, but he made many, it's just confounding. And the same with Duck Soup, that people didn't quite get it, or they didn't understand why you would make a film about like an anti-war film that satirized the Geneva Peace Conference. It just doesn't play. It didn't play for a lot of people, and there are many people who consider it, one of the great comedies of all time, and I'm one of them.
I mean, again, it's what was going on at the time, what was going on in the world. It's all those sort of, it's hard to, I think it's hard to go back. We've talked a little bit about when you have shown your students some of the Ray Harryhausen stuff, which at the time was blowing people away, incredible. Well, now it can look kind of cheesy, and young people, especially who've never seen anything like it, don't get why it's so impressive.
A generation that's grown up with computer-generated imagery, CGI, doesn't necessarily understand or appreciate handmade stop-motion animation, as you see in the original King Kong, and as you see in The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad and the other Ray Harryhausen movies. And I got a beautiful restored print of Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, and Ray was there, and I showed my class several behind-the-scenes featurettes on his other films, in a trailer or two, to get them in the right frame of mind. And they just, I said, allow your inner 10-year-old
to understand,
to rise to the surface tonight. And because that's who this movie was made for. And I have no trouble summoning my inner 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And they did.
But again, everybody's, I keep saying, but it's true. Everybody's different. Mm-hmm. And I understand, in the same way that, when I see certain characters come on screen, I'm going to have a reaction because I've grown up watching them. If someone else didn't, then they may not feel the same way. We love Betty Boop. I grew up watching Betty Boop cartoons. So as soon as I see Grampy, I'm a very happy camper. Stuff like that.
And there's Pudgy sitting on the shelf.
Yes, Pudgy's right behind me.
Us.
We've talked about that. One of the ways that my dad taught me how to read, but also sort of our shared reading time, was reading Lil Abner.
The original Al Cap comic strip.
And I love those books. So I love the Shmoo. And the Shmoo is one of my favorite characters. Now, the Shmoo is not behind us, but that ice cream does look a bit like him. So, again, it's like, but I understand that if I'm going to show someone something that I grew up with, they may not have the same reaction, and it's hard, because if there's something that you love and you want other people to get it, it can be frustrating, but you also sort of have to go, yeah, but I'm not going to react to the stuff that you're obsessed with,
Now, we're watching week by week the Apple TV series Schmigadoon, and having a very good time.
So ridiculous.
We watched the latest 2 episodes.
So ridiculous.
Last night. And if you don't know about it, it's, in brief, it's about a couple whose marriage is a little rocky. And they go to a couples retreat and wander off from the group and walk over a bridge and find themselves in a strange, colorful universe of environment, whatever you call it, where everything is like a musical, like an old-fashioned musical.
Mm-hmm.
And the leads are played by Keegan-Michael Key and Cecily Strong. And the cast is dotted with wonderful Broadway performers.
Kristen Chenoweth, Alan Cumming, all sorts of people, and it's very funny. It's definitely a niche market show, not going to be for everyone, but it's fun. It's fun, and it's kind of ridiculous. And sometimes when you need escapism, as many of us do, that's a great one. My husband and I finished a show that they're making into an American series. We finished the British version, which is called Ghosts, and it's on HBO Max. There are 2 seasons. They're working on a 3rd over there, but they're also working on an American version right now. And Rose McIver, my friend Rose, is going to be the lead in that. But as I say, it's on HBO Max now, the British version. It's very funny. It's light. It is a perfect distraction, easy to have on show. And I recommend it very much because it's exactly what you need. I've also had some friends notice, so Dead Pixels, which is a lot of fun, is now on, I guess it's channel 5 here, but it's also on HBO Max and somewhere else. It's another British show. People need, the word we hate, content. People have run out. So they're starting to go, well, let's grab this, let's grab that. That's why Wellington Paranormal is now on Fox. And it's really funny. It's very dry. If you do not know your Taika Waititi type of humor, that the New Zealander, very dry, sarcastic, but it's on now. And Wellington Paranormal's very funny and absurd. And
of course, we're enjoying the 2nd season of Ted Lasso.
So good.
Which, if you haven't seen, is a breath of fresh air, and an antidote to the doom and gloom we find ourselves facing on a daily basis. It's it's a feel good, but it's a sincere feel good comedy half hour.
Yeah, well written, well acted,
smart,
just good. So Michael's asking, what was the name of the Disney movie that you watched on a plane that you thought was so good? Onward. Onward is the movie. It's Disney Pixar. It's absolutely beautiful. It will make you cry. I'm sorry more people didn't see it at the time, but I hope that they will catch up with it now. It was, yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful movie. Matt wants to know, what do you think of the British actor Norman Wisdom?
Oh, I know him, but I haven't seen enough of his work. He was a pixie-ish comedian who they built vehicles around in the 50s and 60s. And so I know his name and I've seen clips, but I can't really give you an honest opinion.
Sure. Did you have a chance to meet George Burns?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Yes, I did. More than once, but one time that I sat down for a real interview with him was when I was writing my book about old time radio. And his memory was superb. And he gave me a great interview. And, you know, he knew exactly when he and Gracie made their radio debut.
Mm-hmm.
It was wonderful. And he was candid, too, because he was one of the writers of the show, as was his brother, Willie Burns, and which is another brother who had to change his name from Birnbaum.
Picky.
And what's more, at the end of the interview, he said to me, "Have you talked to Harry Ackerman?" I said, "No." He said, "You really ought to." And he gave me Harry Ackerman's phone number. Harry Ackerman was, in the late 40s, in charge of West Coast development, I think comedy development for CBS. And then went on to a long television career. You may have seen his name on Bewitched and other Screen Gem shows. And married to Eleanor Donahue, a Father Knows Best fan. And Harry Ackerman was another great interview. So I'm indebted to Mr. Burns for that.
Amazing.
When Entertainment Tonight went on the air, they used to cover cocktail parties, opening nights, things like that.
Yeah.
And the crew got to know that who would give them good copy, in essence. And if you saw George Burns, you made a beeline for George Burns because he sat down with his two longtime comedy writers every week and came up with fresh material just for that purpose.
Yeah.
So he'd have something to say, something funny to say.
Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
A professional.
Yep.
A professional till the end. What was the most recent film release that filled you with childlike glee and wonder?
Ooh, childlike glee and wonder. Well, Luca.
Luca's up there. Yeah.
Luca's right up there. It's another Pixar movie, another wonderful, beautiful looking, beautifully executed, heartfelt movie. And, you know, I had tears welling up in my eyes. And I had tears welling in my eyes during Cruella, but it was because
different kind.
I had a cinder in my eye.
That's right. Yeah, hated it.
I hated it.
No.
Hate is too strong.
No. Now that's what I said. What do you hate? What do you love? Well, most things you just like, you know, or you don't like. It's rare that they're sort of more extreme. I mean, you liked Onward as much as I did.
Oh, Onward's a terrific.
I bring it up again only because not a lot of people saw it, and it is on Disney Plus. It's really good. You know, there's a term that we talk about because it used to be used all the time, and now it isn't, and that's a good cry. You know, we all sometimes need a good cry. We need to let it out and to have catharsis. You know, in the same way that sometimes you need to get in your car and blast music and sing along, sometimes you need to watch a movie or a show, something.
Like Imitation of Life with Lana Turner. That version in particular of the Fannie Hurst novel was done in the 30s with Claudette Colbert, with Louise Beavers in the original and Juanita Hall in the later one, about an unusual partnership between a single woman raising a daughter who has to fend for herself. I think this is 1930s. Unusual to have a divorcee or a widow as the heroine of a movie. And her black housemaid is really her friend, and the housemaid makes wonderful pancakes, and they go into business together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the 30s version.
Mm-hmm.
In the late 50s version with Lana Turner, they go in a different direction, but it's the same idea. But the housemaid's daughter is very light-skinned and decides to pass for white. There are a couple of scenes in that movie. Got to be made of iron not to respond.
A good cry.
A good cry.
It's a good thing, and we all need it sometimes. Who is one of your favorite star for the day on TCM this month?
Oh, well.
Oh, yeah, they do that.
Yesterday was Abbott and Costello Day.
Mother must have been thrilled.
Which makes me happy.
Mother must have been thrilled.
Although, unfortunately, the movies they made for MGM, which is the cornerstone of TCM's library, were not their best. But just having a day devoted to Abbott and Costello.
Never a bad time.
Yeah.
Never a bad time.
Now, I just turned it on, and they're showing Take Me Out to the Ball Game with Gene Kelly, Frank Sinatra, Jules Munchin, the trio from On the Town, plus Betty Garrett, Esther Williams. So I don't know whose day it is.
yeah. It's hard to gauge. And I usually know only because Twitter will tell me. Mm-hmm. Somebody will get really excited. Some of our TCM friends will post about, oh my God, it's so-and-so day, and stuff like that. Besides Scrooge / A Christmas Carol, what Alastair Sim movies do you like?
Green for Danger. First one that comes to mind.
Huge Alastair Sim fan.
Yep.
So
it's a terrific movie. It's one of a kind. It's one of a kind from the 40s, just right after the war, right after World War II. It's great, but he's worth watching in anything. In anything, he did a cameo for Peter O'Toole as a sort of a favor to Peter O'Toole in his unforgettable movie, The Ruling Class, directed by Peter Medak in the early 70s. And he'd been ill. Some people thought he was dying. But O'Toole offered him this wonderful part. And Sim got out of his deathbed
and got up.
And nailed it. Yeah.
Too funny. Yeah, no, that too always interests me. There are so many actors and actresses that are really famous for one thing, but they don't necessarily make it through the generations.
Well, and there are one-hit wonders.
Yeah,
in every facet of show business.
Yeah, yeah, but that's something I'll say to my dad. Have they ever done a documentary on so and so, or why didn't this person? I bring up Charlie Chase because it's one of my dad's absolute favorite actors, comedians in the world. You love Charlie Chase, and most people do not know who he is. And you always say it's because he primarily made shorts and didn't really do features.
And my pal Kit Parker has just put out volume 3 of the Charlie Chase Talkies, the Hal Roach Library being mined yet again.
Yep.
And Classic Flicks has just released volume 2 of The Little Rascals, restored and remastered.
Yep. Who were you just telling me about that read the Little Rascals book? Did someone just interview you?
Will Friedwald wrote a nice review.
That's what it was.
In the Wall Street Journal this week.
One of my dad's old friends, young friend, old friend, Will Friedwald, just wrote a piece about the Little Rascals and brought up the book, which is something that my dad and his pal Richard Band slaved over for how many years?
7 years, I think.
7 years. Quick one. Quick book. Just right out there.
More or less.
Yeah, give or take. Not that we're being specific. Have you ever watched a Bruce Lee movie? And what did you think of him in the early 1970s?
I was a latecomer to Bruce Lee, as I was kind of a latecomer to Jackie Chan. I got interested in Jackie Chan at sort of the tail end of his Hong Kong career and the beginning of his Hollywood career. And I realized right away, go back to the Hong Kong films. You want to see Bruce Lee, you want to see Jackie Chan
Yeah.
in his purest form. I mean, he's fun in all the movies.
No, he's great. He really is. It's funny, but he really is sort of an old-fashioned minded movie star
Mm-hmm.
in that he wants to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Sing, dance, act,
Yeah.
be great at each one. Was my dad had him was on a show. My dad did a show called Hot Ticket, and Jackie Chan was on the show once, and he said this to us. He said, every time people say my name, they go like this. They say, Jackie Chan, Jackie Chan. And because of that, it is now all we can think. When someone says Jackie Chan, Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan, one of whose heroes is Buster Keaton.
That's right.
And
smart man.
Speaking of taking me out to the ball game, Gene Kelly also idolized Buster Keaton.
Yeah.
He told me that whenever he was doing comedy, he was thinking Buster Keaton. How would Buster Keaton play this? And I said to him, tying in with this movie, I said, did you play baseball together on the MGM team? Yes.
That's crazy.
Try to get that in your brain.
I can't. When I say I can't, I genuinely mean that's wild.
Yeah.
That's really wild. See that is why it's so interesting to ask someone who their inspirations are, who they follow. And the smart ones tend to say there's a couple of names that will come up. Again, this is why we have so much respect for John M. Chu, the director John M. Chu, because he'll tell you how much he loves Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. And that's pretty much all you have to say for me to like you. But people who sort of understand the history and have something that inspires them in that way, you go, okay, all right.
The evening I got home from the hospital, Turner was showing The Gay Divorcee with Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. Well, pure joy, pure joy. And it's a movie I've never fallen out of love with, and for good reason. Yeah.
That's again, when people ask us, when they'll say, I want to get my kid into Laurel and Hardy. I want to get my kid into Chaplin. I want to get my kid into Fred. All those kinds of people. They'll say, how do we do it? And the truth is that a lot of the same thing with the Marx Brothers. The reason that certain shorts and certain features are so well known is because they're great. And there's some stuff that's very easy to show someone for the first time if they don't know who someone is, or if you're kind of testing the waters. You want to see how they'll react to it. They're great because they're great.
The only pitfall right now is you have to go on the PC patrol before you show certain films. Hard. And it may be 98% of the film is perfect.
Yeah. And then someone else, one scene
has something uncomfortable. Yeah.
Damn it. Yeah. But again, that's where we go back to, it's history, and you don't want to just pretend it didn't happen. And frankly, most little kids do not even notice. That's the other part, is you have to remember where you might be sensitive to something. Scott, actually, my husband said something interesting yesterday. We were talking about, he was saying he's excited for the new Bond film. And I, to be honest, didn't know they were making a new Bond film. I said, who's playing Bond? He said, it's Daniel Craig again. I said, I like Daniel. I like him in that. And I asked him who his favorite Bond was. And he said Pierce Brosnan, which I did not know. And I said, why? And he said to me, it's because in large part, those movies were some of the last that could still make those cheeky jokes that you can't make anymore.
Right.
And I thought that was really interesting, because we were saying, obviously when you watch the Sean Connery Bonds or any of the older Bond movies, part of it is that, he says ridiculous, the characters' names like Pussy Galore, but the whole thing is, it's not like it works in the sense that he'll say something really cheeky and it's not like women swoon. They look at him and they go, Mr. Bond. So I am sad that we will lose some of that.
Yes.
Though I completely understand people not wanting it and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But it was just really interesting to me when he said that. He goes, well, I feel like Pierce was the last of sort of the cheeky Bonds, when you could still make those terrible jokes and have those ridiculous names.
Yeah. There's a joke I was going to quote that I realized I shouldn't.
Uh-oh. Now I want to know what it is.
Inspired by the character of Pussy Galore.
Yes, well.
Let's leave that alone.
Lord help
Let's
us.
just leave that alone.
Again, it's so hard. You don't want to have to cut out movies or TV shows.
When I saw From Russia with Love, it was the first Bond film I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Second one made, Dr. No was the first. Second came From Russia with Love. And I saw that in my local New Jersey theater when I was either 11 or 12. That was the coolest, sexiest film I'd ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
The women were gorgeous.
I don't want you to.
Sorry, the women were gorgeous. Sean Connery was at his peak.
Yeah.
The stunts were great. The action was. There's a fight scene in a railroad train compartment. It's, just never left my consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Lottie Lenya played the villain. Oh, everything about that film and it came out at a time when there were no action stunt movies being made. Not none, but
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't a genre. And it had no competition. It had no peer at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, that became the yardstick by which I measured everything else that I saw. Bond films and would-be,
Mm-hmm.
wannabe Bond films. I wonder what I think of it today.
Again, this is the thing. You go back and you watch, and some stuff holds up beautifully, and some stuff doesn't.
I interviewed Gemma Arterton
Yes.
several years ago.
One of your girlfriends, yes.
And one of my proposed
Yes.
girlfriends. And she was very nice. And I said something about her. I think we've got through this whole interview, and I haven't even asked you about being a Bond girl.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Well, I'm quite proud of that."
Yeah.
She said, there's a that's a distinguished group of
It is.
of women.
It is.
And so she
Yeah.
she didn't see it as a put down or
No.
something to be condescended about.
No. As I say, look, there are only so many sort of larger than life figures, film and TV, that have lasted. Really, how many characters have lasted for 20, 30, 40, 50 years? It's a big deal. And, those Bond movies through the years, the way, you remember how I saw them?
Yes. Your choir director.
Dr. Bob, our choir teacher, when we were done. So after you have your final choir concert of the semester, there's really nothing to do for a few days. And so Dr. Bob would set up in the choir room a projector, and we had a big white wall, and he showed us all the Bond movies. That's how the first time, that's how I saw all of the Bond movies.
So you received an education, just not the one we thought you were getting.
Pretty much, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. You paid all that money, and we were watching Bond movies. But hey, it was a lot of fun. It was a great way to watch them. We had a blast.
You do a lot worse.
Right? Amy says she hopes you're feeling better. And she just watched The Great Buster. What an interesting career, and got to see you. Makes me want to see as many movies with The Great Buster as I can, which is exactly what you want out of a great documentary.
Yeah. To whet your appetite. The only problem, and it's not an insurmountable one, but those films play differently when you see them with an audience.
Yeah.
And of course, for silent films, it's especially tricky because silent films really are meant to envelop you in their mystique.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other word that really says it better. If you see a silent movie in a theater or an auditorium of a decent size with a good turnout of simpatico people and live musical accompaniment and a good print, that's an experience. And it's an experience different than any other kind of revival, because if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss something. And watching a film like that at home alone, if you blink, if you reach over here for a drink, or some popcorn,
You don't know what happened.
You don't know what happened. And but also the films have to engage. They have to literally engage you.
Yeah.
You are a participant in the act of watching a silent film.
Yeah.
And if you haven't had that experience, and many people haven't, then I urge you to seek one out whenever it's possible to do so.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean you shouldn't watch them?
No.
On streaming channel or on DVD or Blu-ray? No, not at all. But you may come away saying, I wonder what the fuss was all about.
Yeah.
Because without an audience, an ingredient is missing.
Yeah. Our friend Rachel's saying, I love watching silent films in the theater. And Rachel, we met at the TCM Film Festival. So, and that is why we talk about it with so much love, because you get to see these films the way they were meant to be seen, with an audience that is as excited as you are. Oh, so apparently today is Esther Williams Day on TCM.
Okay.
Bathing Beauty, the finest.
The one time I got to interview Gene Kelly for any length of time was when he agreed to promote That's Entertainment 3. And one of the features of that film was showing some scenes, musical numbers that had been cut. Filmed, finished, but then cut. And there was a number that Gene Kelly did with Esther Williams, I think called Baby Doll. And we had a monitor set up. And we were going to show it to Gene to get his spontaneous reaction. And Gene could be a little prickly at times. He wasn't to me. He was wonderful, and his wife, since has become a dear friend, was with him. And as I started to say, and we have something to show you now. It's a number that you did with Esther. And he said, I wish you would. And I said, that's and as smoothly as I could, I just changed the subject, ignored the monitor that was set up there.
Nicely done.
And moved on.
Nicely done.
One of my better
That's so funny.
moments of finesse.
That is so funny.
Oh, that was a close one.
Yeah.
That was a close one.
But yeah, Esther Williams Day, there's never a bad time. I grew up watching her. Again, my parents would show me. And then, of course, I think like probably most people who watch those movies then got into the pool and would pretend that I was choreographing. and we would then, I don't know if you remember Veronica and I forcing you to watch us, but we would then call the parents out and then go, okay, we want you to watch our performance, which was just us like throwing water at each other and thinking that we looked really, really cool and that we were Esther Williams, which we apparently were not, which was a letdown. What can I say?
I got to meet her on numerous occasions.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry. It's someone is trying, that nice lady from The Guardian is trying to call you. And so she's ruining our live stream. It's fine. You got to interview her on a numerous. I met her. Yeah, I met her. I remember that. I met her poolside actually. In San Diego. Yeah, I remember that. Yep. I remember meeting her. And that was wild. She was a really interesting woman. Her led an interesting life. She was all set to compete in the 1940 Olympics Games, which didn't happen because of the war, because Hitler, started running rampant over a map of Europe. If I've said it once, friggin' Hitler. And so her life took a detour. Yeah. I mean, when you know how many years young athletes train and prepare. Yeah, it's a life. I mean, it's all you do, really. She had no acting ambitions, but she was beautiful. And in those days, that's all it took to get someone's attention at a movie studio. So MGM tried her out, and she had a natural aptitude. She was not a great actress, but she had charm, and she had nerve, which you needed to make some of those films. Yeah, boy, yeah. Some of those musical numbers, extravaganzas. Wow. And she did it all. Hmm. Incredible lady.
Mhm.
Incredible lady. Do either of you go in for so bad they're good movies? Any favorites? Well, I liked. So someone asked earlier if we'd seen the movie Pig, which is a new Nicolas Cage film. I did. My husband and I went and saw it. My parents have not because he hasn't really been out of the house while recovering. Uh, I have to tell you, so I love Nicolas Cage. If you don't know this about me yet, I love Nicolas Cage. I've watched every horrific Nicolas Cage movie that has come out. I have watched it. I love him. I just do. Con Air is one of my favorite, terrible, glorious movies. People often ask what your guilty pleasures are, and we always say we have no guilt. So I don't have any guilty pleasure movies. I mean, I would say that you would watch The Stooges all day, happily.
I could fill a day.
My mom and I would not be there, but he could do that. And yeah, I would say most of the really bad Nicholas, or some like the really terrible Liam Neeson movies. We just watched one. It was like Ice Road Truckers or something like that. Awful on Netflix.
The Gray.
That's another one.
I thought you were talking about the
No,
Gray.
oh no, this is a new one. We told you about this. This is a new one that we just watched where we went, why?
Hey, do you believe Clint Eastwood has a new movie coming out?
I do. My father-in-law texted me and said, have you seen Clint? He's obsessed with Clint Eastwood. He said, have you seen Clint Eastwood's new movie yet? I said, no, Andy, I haven't. And he said, well, tell my pal Clint that I'm very excited about it. I said, yes, sir.
He stars in it and he directed it.
Of course he did. He's 172 years old. He can do whatever he wants.
He may be breaking Guinness records here.
Yeah.
Not just acting at age 91.
Yeah.
Starring.
Yeah.
At age 91.
And directing and doing everything else.
Yeah.
Someone asked earlier what some of your favorite making of movie books are. I would say, just as a side note, listen to, because it is hilarious, listen to any actor's story of working with Clint Eastwood with him as a director. The funniest things you'll ever hear in your life, because half the time he doesn't tell you he's rolling. Half the time, if he does tell you he's rolling, he'll tell you it's practice and then afterwards decide he liked it and just keep it in. Even when the actor is like, but I didn't even have my props. He's like, it's fine, keep moving. There are so many funny stories because Clint is just like, go.
No, but it's quieter than that. All right, let's.
Yeah. Like, honestly, I think probably some of the actors don't know they shot a film. I think there are probably a number of actors who had no clue that filming had begun and that they were in the middle of a movie. Really funny stories. But yeah, what are some of your favorites?
The Jaws Log by Carl Gottlieb, who co-wrote the movie and who is in the movie. That's kind of a classic.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book that may not be in print, but you could probably find a used copy of on Making of an American in Paris by Donald Knox. And the recent ones by Glenn Frankel.
Mm-hmm.
His book on The Searchers and his book on High Noon and his newest book on Midnight Cowboy. They're all uniformly excellent.
Yeah.
Well researched and well thought out.
Yeah.
Very stimulating.
Yeah.
I learned things.
The Gray is awesome. Liam Neeson punching wolves. Exactly. It's absolutely absurd, and I love it. No, again, I think that the movies that fall under that so bad they're good, a lot of times, again, it can be just because you saw them as a kid. You saw them when you were young, and so you love them. You love them no matter what. Some stuff you didn't realize was terrible, and you go and look at it and you go, oh, that's awful. That's awful. I didn't remember how awful that was. Other times you're pleasantly surprised. It holds up beautifully. But you just never know until you're in it, and then it can just be really sad. You're like, oh, this is like the worst thing ever. What a terrible, terrible decision I have made. But yeah, I think I've got through some of you. I know there's always more. Thank you. So many people have written such lovely things to my dad about getting better and healing, and he's been very well behaved. My mom and I are on top of him all the time, making sure that he's being careful.
And I'm very, very lucky. I have such a support system here.
Yeah.
With your husband Scott and you and my wife of 46 years,
Yeah.
Alice.
That lady.
And
the dogs. Logan, you've been great. Mabel, I don't even know.
Well, I have to say, these dogs, these are our new quote unquote dogs.
Yeah.
And they're very funny.
They are very funny.
They keep me amused.
They're hilarious. Yeah. We've now had Logan for 3 months, and Mabel, I think it's got to be like almost 5.
That long?
It's about 5 months. Yeah.
Wow.
Just crazy.
Wow.
But they're still the babies. They're still new.
Yeah.
How's that? Oh my, yes. So I'm now. Somebody asked. I'm just over 6 months pregnant. I don't understand how people count these. Apparently, I'm 26 weeks. I don't know what that means anymore. Every time I talk to a doctor, they give me a different. I'm just like, sure, fine, whatever, fine, great. I'm well, thank goodness. The baby is well, thank goodness. Yeah, we're all okay. And very, 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 very grateful. And my mom and I have decided that when I hit 30 weeks, we will start shopping and it will be very bad. And both the boys, you and Scott, will probably leave the house. And it's probably safer that way. It's probably better that you're not here because it's going to be bad. But what can I say? Are you still, I'll end with this. Are you still a film critic? Or the question that Timmy's asked is, do you still do film critic? Are you still a film critic? Yes.
Yes, I am. I publish reviews on my website, leonardmaltin.com.
Yep.
But I'm behind right now.
Yeah.
And I publish when I feel I have something to say about a movie.
Yeah.
When I don't have something to say about a movie, or if I don't feel like seeing a certain movie,
yeah,
then I'll just shut up.
Yeah.
And so yes, you can go there and look up reviews of things like Luca and other recent releases. Some good documentaries, a lot of good documentaries out there right now. Yeah. And so that's where I ply my trade.
And and we're lucky because we do our podcast, so we get to talk to different people about different films that have come out, which is exciting. Yeah, we're very lucky. Okay, so Catherine is also 26 weeks. Well, mazel tov, Catherine. I don't know how you are, but what are the 2 things I'm capable of right now, Daddy? What are the 2 things I do?
Eating and sleeping.
That's it. I eat and I sleep. And I keep saying, if that's what the baby wants, that's what the baby gets. But that is the extent of my ability right now. So someone's like, hey, you want to go have lunch? I'm like, I can't. It's time for a nap. What are you doing this evening? Napping. What about in the night? Probably napping again. Lots of napping. I nap a lot and I eat. These are my activities. And you know what? It's hot outside anyway. So I sit and I watch movies and I watch TV shows and I sleep. And
that's all you need to do.
It's all I need to do right now. It's fine. It's all fine. Actually, that's the same for you right now. Napping and sleeping. We're a very busy household of nappers and sleepers.
I'm under orders not to use this this left arm or to jostle my left shoulder.
Yep.
So
no jostling.
Yeah. So it takes effort to do that.
It does. Well, as Ken says, the 2021 Maltin, better, stronger, faster. Exactly.
I like it.
That's our Maltin.
I like it.
We will be back with you next week. As long as this one doesn't do something else ridiculous, we will be back with you. Hopefully you'll be wearing a shirt properly, which would be very exciting. The first night we brought him home, he goes, what do I sleep in? I said, sleep in your underwear. It's fine. No one's judging you. Can't get a shirt on over the sling. Don't worry about it. It's fine. We love you anyway. But yes, we hope that you are all well, and we will be back with you next week on Sunday, same bat time, same bat channel. Again, everyone be safe. Please take good care of yourself. I know everything's getting even crazier right now. Focus on what is best for you. Take care of yourself. If you're not comfortable going to a movie theater yet, that's okay. There are a lot of films that are, coming to you at home. If you don't feel comfortable going out, that's okay. There's zero judgment. You do whatever it is you need to do to feel okay right now. Right?
Well said.
Right. We will see you next week.
Aloha.